Hello and welcome to the hard sell, where the stick in the swill-bucket rattles back. It's a bit of the pastor's foreign country for you. You know how football is one of the coolest things imaginable in modern Britain? Well, there was a time when it was otherwise. Very much otherwise. It was a slum sport played in slum stadiums, increasingly watched by slum people who deter decent folk from turning up, as put verbatim by the Sunday Times. Hard as it is to imagine in this day and age, 30 to 40 years ago, football's image lay in a particularly muddy crater, thanks to hooliganism, increasing dilapidation, and yes, a certain amount of class snobbery. But it's hard to get indignant about it when the sport did everything it could to live up to it. It was a scrubby, disreputable sport with all the glamour of a plate of jelly deals in a skip. It got so bad that English teams were isolated from the rest of Europe, people seriously started writing off the sport as a soon-to-be minority pursuit in this country. Snooker and darts became the working-class sports of the 1980s in its place, at least among adults. Kids found both of them a bit dull and complicated, too arbitrary, too many hard sums, not to mention sort of underlit and seedy. The aroma of stale alcohol and beer almost palpable through the cathode ray tube screen. Instead, they looked at a more colourful and immediate world of American sports, and for a time, American football, and to a lesser extent baseball, were quite popular in this country. And that's a long-winded way of introducing another...
Have a break.
Yes, we're looking at adverts during some baseball in 1989, because there was some interest in it over here in those days. Some. Not a lot. That's why it's so dark in here. We never reached the point where enough people truly cared about baseball in this country that it made it anywhere near prime time. No, the best they could ever manage was shortly after midnight at the earliest, and an hour's highlights from a particularly notable game.
Hello and welcome once again to our Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today we're in Shea Stadium.
That's where today's break comes from. A showing in October 1989 in the LWT region of the New York Mets against the Montreal Expos, who are apparently now the Washington Nationals. The Mets won 3-2. I have no idea what that means.
Ready?
Almost.
Relax. You're doing fine.
Louise Jameson is the Doctor. Well, a doctor anyway. And a damn sexy one, not to lapse into Neanderthal level. But, it's true, over a decade on from Leela and she's aged like Catherine Deneuve. My GP was a Father Christmas lookalike who lived in a musty cupboard full of clutter. So it goes.
You're not doing so bad yourself.
I assure you it's all down to good investment. Have you used Friends Provident?
Friends Provident? I'm not in that league. Still saving.
They could help you do that too.
You wouldn't have fitted in here anyway, because this is a self-consciously sophisticated financial services advert. Louise is the aspiration figure, the carrot on a stick, while you, the viewer, are the wormy guy she's deliberately scaring the shit out of, presumably for her own amusement. I have no problems with this.
Look, you should see a specialist.
Oh?
It's only my financial advisor.
The point is, or the point you're supposed to be taking from the advert is, you can progress from the one to the other like a Pokemon evolving from Proleus to Yuppino, if you go and see Friends Provident about whatever the hell it is they do. I have no idea. Nor do I wish to. Member of Lordro.
Friends Provident.
Of course.
We've grown big by being recommended.
A highly American advert here, probably literally. All slick, straightforward, here's what we do, yeah, boosterism. all technique and professionalism and very little soul or character. It gets the message across, but whether you'll remember it up to even the next commercial break is questionable. And that message is, why, that UPS will deliver even to friendless Rutan lighthouse keepers if they have to. They're just that dedicated. They were still trying to carve out a name for themselves in those days, having only launched in Europe 6 years earlier. These days they're fairly secure as one of several courier services we could choose from, because as everyone knows, the wide choice of brands is more important than quality of service. UPS, as sure as taking it there yourself. So you might as well just do that. It would probably be cheaper. This was a really bizarre campaign for Radian. 6-year-old me at the time thought they were bizarre anyway. What's Channel 15? What happened to Channels 5 to 14? Why does their news coverage consist of telling me how great Radian is? How is that news? What's the angle here?
Are you satisfied with your detergent? Can you rely on it to get rid of everyday dirt and stains in your wash?
I do like how they pull the rug out somewhat here, though.
Can you rely on it to get rid of everyday dirt and stains in your wash? Good.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for coming. Advert over, I guess. Oh.
But are you absolutely sure that your wash is completely clean? Can't you sometimes detect a stale odour when you're ironing it?
This was Radian's big, unique selling point, you see. It didn't just deal with stains, it also combated stench. Well, credit where it's due, I've never seen any other laundry detergent advertised as having so much concern for your stank.
Why is that? Because the odours of sweat and cooking cling to the fibres, your washing is not always as clean as it looks. But now, there's new Radian Automatic.
He's quite a guy, this anchorman, breaking the laws of reality just to help this poor housewife out. Well, she needs it, while the whiff of her clothes making her son and husband pull expressions of sheer horror and disgust at her laundering abilities. Unclean! Unclean! All a little bit overdone, really.
A new detergent that removes dirt and odours, even at low temperatures.
Still don't understand the news angle, though.
Radion removes dirt and odours. New Radion. Try it.
Did you know I saved £25 by booking my holiday at Lumpolly?
You remember Lumpolly from the Holidays episode? This is the earliest version of that getaway shtick that they used for at least a decade. Being the earliest version, it's also the most straightforward. Just holidaymakers having a conversation, someone says a catchphrase, and the other one vanishes.
Oh, get away.
Except in these early versions, instead of gawping at the bereft speaker's astonished expression, we travel with the recipient of whatever eldritch magic made them vanish in the first place. A fascinating development, I trust you'll agree. Lumpolly soon realised that where the vanishees ended up was never going to be as interesting, or as good for punchlines, as the mere fact of their vanishing in the first place. Especially when they deliberately loosened some of the flywheels in their brain and started down the corridor of abstract thought, where they ended up with thwarted Santa, self-ruining Grecian temples, and disturbing riffs on the anatomy of flamingos. That's just wrong.
Get away for less with Lumpolly.
My son Chris was a very naughty boy last week.
Oh God. It's Mrs. Tarrant's boys.
Giving away £2,000.
Sorry, Mum.
We're in London, remember, so here's a plug for London's premier independent radio station, inevitably featuring their breakfast show host Chris Tarrant, shell-suit era in excelsis. And also another Chris Tarrant, ostensibly portraying his mother, looking disturbingly like Mrs. Brown.
So this Monday you're going to Give away how much?
£5,000.
Good boy, how?
Tune to Capital Radio 95.8 FM.
When?
Listen at 8:15 Monday morning.
And?
I'll announce the birthday in this envelope. If it matches yours and you can answer the birthday questions, you could win £5,000.
Such a good-looking boy.
This is October 1989, so Capital Radio is just weeks away from being officially rechristened Capital FM. They're already using the name in this advert, you'll notice. At the same time, they were joined by Capital Gold over on medium wave. That's AM for our American viewers. Interestingly enough, this expansion was the result of our old friend, the Broadcasting Act 1990, which is most famous for ruining ITV forever, but it had an impact on radio too, such as the bit which commanded all commercial radio stations to split the difference between the two frequencies, so as to increase listener choice. Because, as I believe I already mentioned, choice is more important than quality. 12 equally bad options to choose from is preferable to one or even two options that are actually any good and know what they're doing.
Somebody's going to win £5,000 Monday morning at 8:15 on Capital Radio.
This is far too late at night for a substantial commercial break, so I'm going to mix in a couple of ads from the next one along as well, just to, pad this episode out, really. No need to thank me.
Tower Records are in for the kill with the brilliant new album from Climby Fisher, Coming In For The Kill.
Tower Records was the American R price, right down to its eventual fate of going bust once Amazon and the like were abroad. Back then they were doing well enough to tentatively dip a toe into the UK market, and by 1989 could also be found in 3 places in London. They branched out to other cities briefly in the 90s, and by the turn of the century and the rise of the MP3, threw their hands in the air and buggered off out of the UK altogether, in anticipation of their eventual collapse in 2006. Here they're advertising the new album by completely forgotten wine bar pop duo Climby Fisher. They were sort of the British Richard Marx, except that there were 2 of them, and Richard Marx had at least one memorable song. I suppose Climby Fisher did as well, at least in theory. Love Changes Everything, which reached number 2 in the UK charts and even won the Ivor Novello Award. But do you know how it goes? No, not that one.
Love changes everything. Love makes you fly and break your wings.
Alright, yeah. That one. Maybe it would come to mind faster if it had a murder mystery connected to it. Anyway, they weren't quite one-hit wonders, but not much more. By now it's for their doomed and hilariously inappropriately titled follow-up, Coming In For The Kill, featuring the new single, Facts of Love.
Featuring the single Facts of Love.
Sorry, I mean Facts of Love. Either way, no bugger bought it, and the band broke up. Sadly, Fisher died 10 years later. Climby's now a successful producer and engineer. Or possibly he went into gravel. Reports vary. Either way, they're both much more successful than I'll ever be, even the dead one, so...
Climby Fisher, Coming In For The Kill, on LP, cassette and CD at Tower Records, Piccadilly Circus, Kensington High Street and Whiteley's Queensway.
Spud Gunn apparently has friends other than Dave Hedgehog. And Eddie, of course. Who knew?
Fancy an Indian?
Yeah.
Stephen O'Donnell, for It Is He, did a lot of adverts in the late 80s and early 90s, partly because he has that hefty, slightly hangdog every prole look, which is perfect for advertising such as beers and things, or for undercutting to promote more classy affairs such as BSB.
You may be pleased to hear that starting September, BSB will be broadcasting in digital stereo sound.
This is very much in the former mold. It's for Heineken, the magic, slightly alcoholic gas water that can change the physical properties of things, at least in its adverts. It's used that premise for a long time now. Even back in 1989 it was pretty much standard. I mean, look how Spud Gunn and his mate take it.
said an Indian, not an African.
Surprisingly blasé about an elephant crashing through the wall because, somehow, of their lager. I mean, it might be the wrong kind of elephant, but I would say that's still pretty impressive. And back to the based balls. The Mets eventually win and go on to lift the Stanley Cup or something. I don't know, baseball never really caught on in this country, even to the limited extent that gridiron football did. Gridiron at least looks reasonably exciting, if you edit out all the pauses between bursts of action. It's like rugby, adapted by Harold Pinter. Baseball has the balance tilted very much in the direction of pauses. Both were doomed within a few months anyway, when England accidentally almost won the World Cup, and the coolest band in the country provided the soundtrack. Football started to intersect with a newly, if temporarily resurgent working-class culture, and slowly but surely the sport made a comeback, and all bets were off for American sports. Still, it was nice while it lasted. Well, no, it wasn't, but it was definitely a thing that happened once. Can't take that away.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never go back. 'Cause there's a root for the home team. And if they...
You've been watching a Bob the Fish production. Thanks! If you haven't found it already, be sure to check out our website at bobthefish.org.uk. Literally hundreds of videos not unlike this one that will make you laugh, think and realise new things or your money back. Which works out great because they're all absolutely free. All of this is possible thanks to the not unique way that Bob the Fish productions are paid for by you, the viewing public, via Patreon. For a donation of as little as £1 a month, not only do you ensure that I still have food and shelter so I can carry on making these programmes, but you could become eligible for a whole host of cool extras. New video essays, special event live streams, all my content a week in advance, and my book on the history of the BBC, Rule the Waves, chapter by chapter as it's written. And some cake, if you go out and buy a cake and eat it while you're watching. And if you don't want to support on a monthly basis, you can make a one-off donation via coffee. It all helps stave off scurvy. bobthefish.org.uk. You make it what it is.